Welcome to Range World, the podcast where life, development, leadership, growth, intentionality, and experience come into balance right before your very ears. And now, here's your tour guide into Range World, the president of Get Life in Balance, Rain Kansman.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Rain's Life in Balance, and we have leadership lessons here with Mr. John Chmaj. And John and I, this is one of my oldest relationships. He and I go back to kids. We grew up together. John is a musician, a multimedia artist, knowledge management expert with a passion for creating new experiences through media. His degrees from Berklee College of Music in Jazz Composition, where I got to see him at, and New England Conservatory in Music Theory. He's worked on high-tech field of knowledge management for over 30 years now. Wow. John and I have been working together to help bring this vision of online art sharing to life. He's also an old family friend since 1967 is what I remember.
That's it.
So it's been a pleasure to renew our acquaintance.
Indeed.
John, welcome.
Thanks, Rain, for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we go all the way back to when I first saw you in Wee Willie Winky Goes to the Moon. You were 9.
Oh gosh, memories.
Memories.
And John wants to talk about a subject that I would have to say, to me, has helped him get to be an expert on so many levels. Persistence. That's the topic you chose today.
Yep.
So let me ask the first question. Why did you choose persistence as your leadership quality to address?
Well, that's a good question. You know, we started working together this year in the Life and Balance program because I had, for 25 years, been thinking about using my musical abilities and some multimedia tools I've learned about doing animation and video, along with how to render information and knowledge in my technical career, how to bring those things together. I've been noodling that over for a better part of a quarter century. I've got about 9 notebooks full of ideas on them. I mean, anywhere I look, there's a notebook. Here's a couple of them, just chock full of ideas. And then, you know, life intrudes. You have children. You build your career. You do these things, and I'm forever coming back to these notebooks because my spirit, if you will, my mind, it just keeps chewing on this idea. And what I decided to do with Life and Balance this year, which has to do with persistence, is I decided to change the game, change the orientation from defense to offense, from setting it off to the side and kind of working on it, to saying, okay, I have to make this front and center of my life to get to where I need to go with it. And I'm not saying it's the only thing, it's the top priority even, but that I've been, the good news once I made that decision and you and I started working together, as I started reviewing these, and I realized that instead of criticizing myself for, I didn't get to it, and we all have this in our life, this one thing, I wish I could have done that, and I should have done that. But when you flip it over to what do I really care about, whatever that thing is, for me, it's this online arts thing, you start to realize that you've always been working on it. And that in my mind, I've been working on it for years and years, and these notebooks have good ideas in them. Yeah. My mind has been chewing on this thing, and it just keeps going. And so from the standpoint of persistence, it's not that you're always beating on a wall to get stuff down. It's acknowledging that, trusting yourself a little bit, that you are doing the thing internally, even subconsciously, that you need to do to get where you want to go. And that, and once you honor that and start giving it a little more mind share, a little more space in your life, it will flower naturally, as long as you don't just beat it over the head and try and make it behave, which, is a pattern I've been through before. So persistence to me is almost like, I'll say it's a state of mind. That sounds kind of obvious, but it's an ongoing way of thinking about something and just not giving up. Winston Churchill said, the only failure is quitting.
Yeah.
you know, and of course, you know, he was in the Second World War. He didn't have much choice, but that's kind of what it's about for me.
Yeah. So a couple things came up there, and I love this. One of the pieces that kind of came through in your conversation was that persistence will help you get past roadblocks. And I don't know if this happens to you, John, and I'm going off script, but John and I have the habit of going off script. And that is that there's times when I've been chewing on ideas for a while that the negative thoughts in my mind really kind of knock them down unfairly, knock them down. So I was really glad to hear you say, there's good ideas in here. You put good thoughts. And I think the persistence sometimes helps us get back on the road to that positive outlook on what we're doing.
Yeah, they asked a great meditation master what the secret of the meditation practice he had developed over half a century. He said, fall down, get up, fall down, get up, fall down, get up.
That's persistent.
This is the master speaking, right?
Gotcha. So what else do you think is involved? You define persistence from your point of view a little bit. Is there anything else you want to add that? Is there anything else involved in that from your
Yeah, I think, and this is part of the work you and I have been doing, I believe, is lightening up a little bit, keeping it simpler, lowering your expectations, not of the overall vision, but what are you thinking about doing in the moment? And recently, you know, as you know, I got back into the rut again of trying to like do it all at once. It's very similar to, and part of my problem this year is, you know, how many of us have had the New Year's resolution where we're going to lose weight, we're going to get in shape, we're going to eat better, we're going to do that athletic thing we want to do, we're going to change our relationships, we're going to get a new job, and by the end of January, we're bloody exhausted.
Yeah.
So, and I, you know, so there I went, right, down there, knowing full well that there was a likely outcome. But once we got to the rut, some of the coaching that you gave me that was interesting around this is, you know, even if you just do one thing today, you know, when I was getting my master's degree, it was in theory. And so when you're doing music theory for a degree, you're not playing an instrument, you're writing papers and you're doing analysis. And I would get so wrapped up and stressed out about what I hadn't done yet. And I go and see my best buddy, Greg, who was my, you know, we always have, I think a lot of us have a best buddy in college, and we're real tight every day. And he would say, well, I said, well, I only wrote a line in my paper today. He goes, yeah, well, that's the line. You wrote the line. That's what you did today. Let me read the line. And I read it, you go, oh, it's amazing. What an amazing line. And he would just pump me up that way. So one way we can help ourselves achieve persistence is to give ourselves little treats or little feedback on what we are doing. So for example, as part of the program that we're working on, Rain, you know, I've established some artist time, you know, time to go to Jupiter here and whatever I'm going to do, get done with my job and everything. It's Tuesday night, Thursday night, and Sunday night. It just happens to work with the schedule in my household. And instead of having some big project thing I'm going to do, I might be tired on a Tuesday night. I don't really feel, but I'm going to do something. Yeah. And even today I was thinking about this, even if it's just listening to a piece of music really intently, just sitting and really absorbing it, that is an activity. So I guess my guidance on this is, if there's something you're trying to accomplish, even a little bit on a regular basis is going to continue to feed that subconscious trend and habit in you than trying to have these big projects. You know, I had a piano teacher back in the day, Bob Winter, and he said 15 minutes a day for 7 days a week is better than 5 hours one time.
Wow.
Just, you know, you've got to keep your hand in it. Yeah. So that's my trick.
I love that. I love that. Cool. So what would be, because sometimes it's hard to get up, right? And sometimes it's hard to find that persistence. So what are some of the benefits of mastering that quality?
Well, for me, as an artist, you know, I'm a pianist and I also do this multimedia stuff. That type of activity is, in some respects, very similar to athletic activity. Okay. If you want to do 10 push-ups today and you want to do 20 next week, then you can't just do 10 today and then wait a week and do 20. You build those muscles. Now, for me, it's being able to play the instrument, being able to hear things, studying certain things that I want to perform, composing. Those are all activities that keep the aesthetic muscle going. So that's the trick, is to, whatever it is you're doing. I mean, my job's like that. I got things I do in my job having to do with technical stuff, and I just, you got to keep your hand in it. And what happens is, our minds are beautiful things. They're really, they'll work on it for you. I'm sure those listening have all experienced a time when you've done something, and then a few days later the answer comes. Well, you were working on it, and you didn't even know it, right? Somehow that's just so. Think of whatever you're doing. It doesn't really, I would assert, it doesn't matter what the activity is or the goal or the thing you're trying to work on. Think of it as a muscle you're trying to build, and honor it that way to keep it oiled and working so that it'll work for you.
Yeah. I love that. Cool. So one more question I have for you, and I have an add-on because I know you can handle it. But I have one more question for you. How does one start on that journey? What are some of the things that a new leader could do to get better at this?
Well, that's an interesting question. So I'm going to refer to a couple of things about that. I have a program in knowledge management that I just happened to be involved in the inception of back in the 90s, called Knowledge-Centered Support. Okay. And it requires a certain new behavior by support organizations to capture knowledge as they answer questions from customers. And it's a learned behavior and the organization as a whole has to start on this journey. They've got to somehow gather up their assets and figure out this is where they want to go. And there's a lot of work that goes into it. And I'll reflect on two things. I don't know who said this, but the doing will show you how. And that's reflected in what's called Agile software development. I know your audience who's involved with any software technology has heard of this. It's a jazz band versus a symphony. Okay. So jazz band, we're gonna get together and play, and then symphony is I'm gonna sit there and write this perfect masterpiece and I'm gonna foist it on you. Yeah. But I don't recommend the symphony because that's just gonna be what we call admiring the problem for a long time. As my friend Scott Bethel once said, I like to plan because then when I plan, I don't have to do. Yeah. So I really, it's a really long-winded way of saying, jump right in and try some stuff. Agile software development doesn't have this waterfall plan that typical software development where we're going to, design, develop, test, ship. That presumes that I already know what the outcome is at the end. You don't know what the outcome is at the end, and the doing will change it. The activity will change the behavior and the insights of where it is you need to go. So you need to honor that and get that going. So in Agile software development, they use a sports term from rugby called a scrum. If you've ever seen rugby, the players just go, right? They just get at it, and then the ball pops out somewhere. And so that's a valid way to approach a project. You remember, Ray, I got lucky early on in this year's work because we got a proposal from the Smithsonian that we were asked to bid on for exactly the kind of thing I wanted to do. Well, that created the compelling event where we had to organize our resources and do something. And we didn't even know right up until the end what it was we were pitching. But before, so if you can create some compelling event, make a commitment to somebody that you're going to present something. Go to your team if you're doing a leadership thing. Go to your team and say, I'm going to have something ready for you, in 1 month. Even though who knows if what you're going to have. But get yourself in some trouble. Make some commitments that are going to require you to step up. And as long as you set the expectation with whoever you're working with that this is draft one. I just used this strategy 2 days ago with my manager. I had this thing I had to do, and I've been putting it off because it was a lot of complex things, and I want to get it just right. And I thought, you know what? Just slap it on, man. Put it together. And sure enough, as soon as I slapped it together, I saw what else I needed to do. I cleaned that up, sent it forward, and I'm happy with it. So don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, right? You love all my little aphorisms here. I'm like Aphorism City here.
So love that. I love great ideas for moving that forward. I think those stretch goals where we get outside of our comfort zone really do help when we get to those kind of things. Create something that might be a little stressful on the piece, but we might need that stress to drive us right towards that goal. Yeah. I like that.
Well, and I'm fortunate, when I first, if you don't mind me, it's a little related comment. When I first got into business and I gotten out of the arts because I was in an academic career and I decided to move to a business technology career, I used to apologize. Well, I don't really have a technical degree. You know, I come from the arts, blah, blah. And I realized within 5 years of this career that I had assets that these guys didn't, that other people didn't have. For example, presenting like this, talking to somebody.
Right.
Well, I was used to being on stage all the time. And in fact, projecting my ideas on stage is a talent. It's a skill you have to develop. And most important, what made me think of it around sort of this commitment thing you're talking about is a performer is going to play on July 17th at 8 p.m. Now, it's going to happen whether you're ready or not. And so that conditions your thought process around it. And as a trained performer, you learn to discipline yourself to those dates. And that's hugely important in business. I mean, how many presentations have we sat through in business where someone's not ready? Yeah. And even they know it. And you're like, oh, for God's sake, you know, you're wasting time. Yeah. So I think there's something to be said for learning how to perform. And I don't mean music or anything, just learning how to trust yourself that it'll be okay, right? But doing it is more important than not.
Yeah, I tell you, John, that to me, in the learning and development, the presentation part of that is one of my biggest driving forces. Is I do not want to walk out of a presentation and have anyone in the room think it was a waste of time. I don't. So I really work to do that. So I understand that. And then you work backwards with your goals to, okay, I get this done in order to get that done. So interesting you brought that up, because John and I actually, again, as he said in the beginning, we met on the stage and we did several presentations together. And I too benefited from that time in what I do for my career too.
I hadn't thought of that. I never thought of that. The Loon Lake Pedros is where we really crafted our craft. And look at us now.
Absolutely. So I want to add a couple of things. One is I'm going to add 2 more P's to John's persistence, because this is what I see in John. John is persistent, and you heard it in his intro and you probably saw it in his presentation, but he is passionate about many things. And when he gets passionate, there's no stopping John. But the other piece you don't know is a very talented individual, but he practices and he's put in a lot of work into his craft. And I think those 3 things are some excellent keys to helping, or 2 more things, 2 more P's to help with persistence to drive you through.
I have one piece of advice if we're talking about leadership and persistence is, and this may sound a little trite, but it works. Be interested in the outcome. I think we get too wrapped up in our own self-perceptions and ideas about what success is and how people need to receive what we're giving them. And we get all wrapped up in that. But actually, if you turn it around to say, instead of, oh, I'm going to assert this and this will be the truth, is, well, let's be interested in the, let's see what happens. When this doesn't mean you're not prepared, doesn't mean you don't care, like you said, that the audience gets something out of what you're doing, or that your group or whoever you're working with, but be interested in have a sense of curiosity about your outcome. Let go a little bit of what it necessarily needs to be for you or the people you're working with to be happy. Be interested in the outcome. And it makes a huge difference. We have a football coach here. I'm a big Seattle Seahawks fan. We have a football coach here, Pete Carroll, whose degree was in sports psychology. And he won't talk about what his team's going to do and how they're going to stomp this guy. What he talks about is the athletes as people and his interest in what they're trying to do in their careers athletically. And he's incessant about it. In the first couple of years, everybody thought, oh, he's a college rah-rah coach. But now after 10 years, we're bought into the fact that this football team, only one team ever wins a championship, but it is an enterprise. And how can we re-envision this game that we play and have more fun and more creative ways of playing it? And he's got his players bought into that now. And so I think that's a good example for me of someone who's really coaching people as people, not coaching the outcome like he's got to be on the hook for some big thing he's going to do. It's all about them. And whenever they ask him about this psychology thing, he goes, well, I'm not on the field. It's because I'm not going to go out there and get pummeled by these professional athletes. They've got to get ready. So my job is to just keep them focused and motivated on what's possible for them. I think that's a good leadership lesson.
I love that. Well, as you know, I'm all about servant leadership. I'm all about the team and the people, and that, what a great bonus to this session, John. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it. It's always an interesting conversation when we get together, and I know the folks that are going to see this are really going to get something out of it. Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate it, Rain, and I'll be home from Europa soon. So
We will catch up soon. Take care, my friend.
thanks.
This has been another leadership lesson from Rain's World. If this kind of learning whets your appetite, leaving you wanting for another helping of this kind of content, visit me at getlifeandbalance.com.